It's a solution that's based on drugs that communicate when you ingest them, a wearable device that tracks your medicines and measures your physiology, apps that engage consumers and their families and inform care teams, and analytics that support providers and payers. They enable us to answer the most fundamental question in all of ambulatory care. Did the patient take the drug? If they did it work? Should I titrate it, rotate it, or eliminate it? The enabling technology is a new kind of computing that is ingestible. This is a computer that's made out of ingredients that you will find in your daily diet in tiny fractions of your RDA. It's tiny. It's the size of a poppy seed. It's approved by FDA as a medical device. It's approved by CFDA as a medical device. It's CE marked in Europe. It's very safe. There are no pregnancy, medical condition, chronicity of use, or age restrictions. There is now a new path to create a digital medicine. And to gain approval for the medicine, you have to go to CDER, which is the drug division. You take an approved drug with an approved ingestible sensor. You study stability, bioequivalence, and human factors. It takes about 20 or 30 months, depending on how long it takes to formulate. Total cost about $50 million, out of which you get a new NDA with a new NDC code and a new naming convention, and you can create a new business based upon this novel pharmaceutical. So what? Why is that interesting? In the last century, the pharmaceutical industry created enormous therapeutic potential. For many diseases, we have cures. For many others, we have ways to manage them effectively. But much of that potential is wasted because universally, adherence is well below 50%. Drugs don't work if you don't take them. So in 2018, the most recent study on this, Annals of Pharmacotherapy, estimate is $530 billion a year are the costs associated with inappropriate use of medicines. $530 billion a year, 16% of the total budget. This, by the way, is not a defective patient problem. This is a defective product design problem. Consumers can't succeed in open loop systems, especially if they don't have knowledge or skills. Doctors and care teams can't succeed if they don't have the information they need to titrate, rotate, eliminate medicines. What do digital medicines do? They enable consumers to engage with their own care using a cell phone in their pocket, and they empower healthcare providers to deliver care that's specific to each consumer based on objective data, making use of drugs we already have. So we've done about 125 clinical studies so far. That's a lot, with thousands of subjects. What you see here is a randomized peer-reviewed study. These are patients with high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high lipids. They've all been on drug for at least 6 months. They've failed all their endpoints designated as drug refractory. Key finding. Within 98% of these patients have their blood pressure gone. 98% within 90 days. Huge impact in their lipids and their blood sugar. 51% under control in control group. Major impact across all the clinical endpoints. Actual appropriate use of medicine has an incredible impact. And the key insight here is appropriate use of medicines is valuable from a public health perspective. This will lead to a predictable reduction in stroke and heart attack, and most importantly, this is not bending the sick care cost curve, it is replacing the sick care cost curve with a healthcare cost curve where you're shifting from building people product to software, service, mobile platform, when you're meeting people where they live, work, play, and pray. So, lots of people have denied therapy. If you have an infectious disease and we think you're maybe not going to be compliant, you won't get the drug. In the US today, if you are diagnosed with hepatitis C and eligible for a curative therapy, less than 50% of the patients who end up in a clinic will actually go on drug. And the reason is because people worry they may not be compliant. This is a study in patients who are homeless. 28, every single one of them cured, every single one of them able to meet their adherence goal because they're supported, they have data, they have feedback, and they have a care team that knows precisely what's going on. Improved productivity too. So, in the world of TB, 2 billion people in the world, by the way, infected with TB, the standard of care is directly observed therapy. This study shows wirelessly observed therapy, much more effective, much less invasive, much less costly. You can deliver it anywhere in the world. It's great for the patient, gives them dignity. It's great for the nurse who's trying to manage the patients. She doesn't have to watch 10, she can watch 10,000. People talk about drug pricing a lot, and they define it as the problem. It's not. The pharma business model is the problem, and most especially the innovation model in the industry. If it costs $5 billion to produce a drug and you have 10 years to get your money back and in return, what do you think the price is going to be? It's not going to be cheap. Pharmaceuticals are a risky business. R&D costs billions. It's very hard to predict success. When you get approved, it can be very hard to get CMS to pay for it. Pricing must be high. And your competitors in the bulk chemical industry are all waiting for the date certain when they can take over your business and it's over generic. Innovation based on silicon and software can help change all of this. It's much more predictable, it's much lower risk, it can deliver products with very significant outcome effects with a built-in ability to measure, is it being used, does it work, how can I titrate, how can I rotate, and it enables a business model based on value, not volume. And by the way, that is what digital platforms do. So if you think back to a different sector, advertising and advertisers used to be about very crude demographic targeting and driving page views to the indicated target, because that's how you sell advertising. Today, advertisers are about sophisticated analytics, delivery is precise, it's to individuals even, and payment is based on achieving an outcome or a near outcome surrogate, like did you buy the product? Because advertisers don't actually want to buy page views, they want to buy customers. There's a clear parallel here. Today, pharmaceuticals and how they're sold is largely about crude demographic targeting and driving prescriptions to the indicated targets. What digital medicines enable is for pharmaceutical companies to be about sophisticated analytics where delivery is precise and payment is based on achieving an outcome or a near outcome surrogate. Because health systems don't actually want to buy drugs. They want to buy control of blood pressure. And it's the outcome that counts. When you look at what these platforms can do, it's not just about saying the drugs we have can be dramatically more effective, can promote more access and promote more health system productivity. We can actually see decades of new innovation potential making use of the data sets that come from digital medicines. So it's new therapeutic information about how drugs are actually used, physiologic information about how drug use affects patients, mobile information about how patients can engage with their care and their cognitive state, and subjective information about how and why patients use products. So, digital medicines IP, our company has literally hundreds of issued patents already and hundreds more under prosecution, mean that we can continue to develop the drug supply we've already discovered, which we know is fundamentally under-researched. And we can use these digital medicine tools and data sets to improve the fidelity of the trials that we undertake, and in particular make use of real-world evidence, which was very, very beautifully described by Dr. Schuren as a way to massively speed the rate at which we can bring products to market. So this is a fantastic way to leverage the assets of a trillion-dollar industry. It's already globally scalable. So we've taken standardized pharmaceutical manufacturing equipment, we've taken standard semiconductor equipment, we've blended them. If you want to come to our factory in Hayward, you can see this all running. We make use of cloud services that span the globe. We have products that are being used pretty much on every continent. So, 20th century. It's all about things. There was a medicines revolution. It began with chemistry. 1899, Bayer synthetic aspirin. Got a boost in 1982 with biology, Genentech, human insulin. Later on in the century, there was a digital revolution. And you can see how the two map. And look, in 1998, it really lifted off for Google. Today, there are 325,000 health apps. So, massive shift in the dimensions between digital and medicines. In the 1950s, the gap between knowledge and things created something that we now know as professions, right? And in healthcare, that means doctors. And doctors had a lot of expertise, information moved very slowly, and so doctors knew a lot about medicine. We're going to come across, or we're going to enter, a digital medicines revolution. We have a new NDA for Abilify MySight. We're about 120 years into chemistry, about 36 years into biology. We're about 6 months into digital. Physics will be a turbocharger for chemistry and biology, and it will create another step change in the way in which medicine is practiced, because doctors won't just know about you, or know about medicines, they'll know about you, and they'll know and understand precisely how you use your drugs and how they affect your body. And this is a really important shift. People talk about big data and AI all the time, and we've seen some very good examples of how you might use that. But what's important is to understand when you're dealing with human systems that the power of major platforms is not necessarily the scale or the analytics, it's the data specificity that counts. So knowing specific and detailed information about individuals is the real power behind the companies on this list. So Amazon knows how you shop and what you want to buy. Google knows where you want to go on vacation, what you're going to do when you get there. Facebook knows who your friends are and how you interact. LinkedIn knows where you work and where you want to get a job. This isn't speculation. This is objective fact. What Proteus knows is how you use your drugs and how your body responds to them. If Amazon can phenotype how you go shopping and deliver a precision commerce experience, then what we can do is deliver a precision medicine experience by phenotyping how you use your drugs. And this will be a key part of our future. Why is this important? And I'll finish here. In the 20th century, we built a sick care system. And it was designed to solve the major problems we had in the last era, which were mainly acute trauma. And it was based on the best technologies we had in the 20th century. So it's buildings where you plug into electricity, that's the new utility. People with knowledge in their heads, education, great 20th century invention, and products that were designed to be safe in everyone and work in someone, because mass standardization is the great achievement of the industrial era. Okay, we're in the 21st century. And what we have to do now is build a healthcare system, not to replace sick care, but to complement it and extend it. And it has to be designed to solve the major problems we have now, which are chronic diseases that affect everyone all over the globe. 400 million people in China with hypertension, 9% treated to go. If we're going to build it, let's build it with the best technology we have now. So the power of the building where you plug into electricity is incredibly magnified by the potential of a mobile device where a consumer can log on. And people with knowledge in their heads are made unbelievably more productive by software and servers with intelligence in the cloud, so that scarce human resources can be spread around the globe where they're needed. And products that were designed to be safe in everybody and work in somebody become services that are tailored to you, your genes, your lifestyle, your behavior. They can be delivered where you live, work, play, and pray, in ways that you see, measure, and understand on the mobile device in your pocket at a price you can afford to pay. That, in our view, is the promise of digital medicines. Thank you. I'll take some questions if you want. Okay. No questions? Okay, so sorry.
I know that I follow your company very closely. I know that you've been working on medications for chronic disease and that's a huge market. We've all been hearing on social media about the opioid epidemic, about people who are adherent in a different way, may take too much of it. Is Proteus looking at tackling some of that, and if so, I'd love to hear more.
Yes, so we presented a couple of times at the White House to the Opioid Commission on how you would do that using a digital medicine solution. There's no question that these technologies can be used to create a very secure chain of care where you can know and understand how a patient is using drug. You can build taper into the medication schedule so the patient knows and understands what to do. You can track key physiologic parameters, for example, like respiration, so you can actually see if the patient is using the drug, is active, or is, for example, taking extra on a Friday night to have a bit of fun. And so you build a very secure chain around that. It also means that, for example, if the patient comes back and says, I want more, and didn't take them, well, you know, but you didn't take them, we have the evidence. So these solutions are very accurate. So we think that's very high potential. We think it's probably likely to be an easier solution than creating non-opioid pain relievers. So we'll start patients on opioid solutions this year.